Hello. Kidnapped, jailed, tortured. For nearly 3 years, that's been the life of Loujain AlHathloul, who defied Saudi Arabia's female driving ban. She's been shortlisted for the Václav Havel Human Rights Prize. Loujain's sister Lena is on the line from Belgium. How is Loujain now mentally and physically?
So Loujain physically, she's getting better. When she was first released, she had lost a lot of weight because she had gone through two hunger strikes. But she's getting better. She's taking care of her health. Mentally, psychologically, I must say she's still very strong and resilient, and she still wants to fight for justice. But of course, I mean, it's exhausting for her. We see that the harassment doesn't stop. Just recently, she got an email saying that there was a government-backed attempt to steal her password. So, of course, her daily life is still not safe, and she still feels unsecure.
Loujain is best known for defying Saudi Arabia's ban on women drivers, but she's also campaigned heavily to reverse the system of what's known as male guardianship. What is the current situation in Saudi Arabia for women in this regard?
So I must say, for the women driving, I think it's the only real positive change in the country, because we've seen so many people and countries praising MBS as a reformer at the very beginning, which was understandable because he had the right narrative to flirt with the West, basically. But when we see that year after year, the conditions of women and the male guardianship system has not changed. What people have been reading is that, for example, there have been an easing of this system, but people are not informed enough about what is really happening in the country. I'll just give maybe one example is the fact that now women can travel without the consent of their male guardian, which is true. Women can travel without the consent of the male guardian as a precondition to travel. But if the male guardian considers her traveling, so his daughter or his wife, as disobeying him, then he can call the police based on this disobedience law. And she can get arrested and not be able to leave prison without the consent of this very male guardian who arrested her. So we see that the male guardianship system is still there. And every new freedom that is granted is always vetoed or countered by other laws to maintain this repressive regime.
What do you think Loujain's efforts mean for the future of human rights in Saudi Arabia and indeed the region?
I think in a very first step, Loujain's biggest role, I think, was to make women realize that the situation was not something normal. I think when you are born, when you have been living generation after generation in repression, sometimes you don't even realize that the situation is not something natural, and it's not something that should be accepted. So I think the first thing Loujain did, and that was really positive, is raising awareness regarding the situation. And then I think it became more normal to think that this male guardianship system should be abolished, etc. And then, you know, the feminist movement began in Saudi. It became one of the loudest social activities. But then in a second step, I must say, what was really interesting to see is that I think Loujain is one of the first people in the whole country to resist repression behind bars. And I think this is something, even after being tortured by high officials, after being kidnapped, sexually harassed, she still resisted and wanted justice. And I think that she destroyed this wall of fear that people have when they're in prison. And I think so many people followed afterwards, saying that they have nothing to lose anymore, so why be scared? And I think that Loujain just made people realize that there's no place for fear anymore.
And finally, how do awards, just like the Václav Havel Prize, how do they help the campaign, the fight?
I must say, Loujain would have never, ever been released now if there was no international pressure and that people didn't acknowledge who she is and award her for her work. We see that at the very beginning, Saudi Arabia tried to make her seem like she's a traitor and, a foreign agent, and a huge defamation campaign. And what really saved Loujain was the fact that people told Saudi Arabia indirectly or directly that they don't believe this narrative and that Loujain should be thanked and awarded for her work. And I think making her not forgotten, making her a symbol of human rights defenders is the only way that she can be saved. And I thank, all the people who have been campaigning for her, that have been awarding her, and that stood strong in the face of the oppressors who tried to defame her.